Welcome to From Loneliness to Overflow with Matina. I'm your host, a holistic healing coach, divorce recovery coach, and a passionate advocate for personal growth and your guide on the journey to healing. This podcast is for those who are struggling with the feelings of loneliness, disconnection, feeling stuck, and who are ready to discover their inner potential and live a life overflowing with love and connection. Inside, we're going to explore the path from pain to transformation, bridging the gap between loneliness and abundance through heartfelt conversations, spirituality, energy work, and self-awareness. So let's get started on this soulful journey together. Welcome to another episode from Loneliness to Overflow with Matina. Today's guest is really a soft, loving soul that I got the privilege to meet in person. And her journey, in which has so many different elements, but the real one thing that stood out for me is when she shared how from a very young age she became aware of her own gifts, but then throughout life has learned to work with the gifts and do what she's doing today. So welcome, Jessie.
Thank you, Matina. It's a pleasure being here.
Beautiful. So Jessie, please introduce yourself for the listeners.
Okay. I am a psychosomatic therapist. I live in Ontario, in Canada. I've been doing this work for about 15 years now, but I have been, going through the journey of understanding the work, embodying the work, and coming back home to myself for, I would say, over 30 years.
I love that you said embodying the work, because there's a lot that we can embody and we naturally are gravitated towards. So let me ask you this. Can you tell or share a pivotal moment in time or even an experience where you're like, that was my moment where I felt deeply lonely or disconnected?
There are many moments that I can look back and draw on, pull those threads of loneliness. There were times within my childhood when in direct relation with my parents, I felt unseen, unheard, unknown. There were times in friendships where I felt like an outsider. There were times in my marriage where I felt like I was standing beside somebody, but I was absolutely alone. And throughout all of it, I think the common thread is a knowing of oneself. It was never loneliness. It was a call to come inwards, to know myself.
Right.
And in that knowing of myself, the loneliness became a call for connection and a depth in connection.
There's so much that you shared that when you are called to go inwards, and that can mean so many different things for so many different people. For your personal experience, Jessie, what was that for you? What was that calling? What did you step into first when you were growing up and felt the disconnection, and then even later on as an adult, where you're like, oh, okay, that was my way of coming to know myself more?
As a child, it felt like the connection was more of a party trick.
What do you mean by that?
It felt like it was a way for me to perform for affection and attention, but the gift was within me. So I would connect with myself, but I did it for validation.
Right.
Yeah. And then as I grew up in my marriage and reconciling my relationship with my parents, connecting with myself became, how would you say, eating humble pie? Where you had to really go inwards to see your thoughts, your patterns, and your beliefs that were creating your reality.
Yeah.
And to recognize that all the aspects of your reality are aspects of yourself that you don't like, that you've become, that were coping mechanisms, and you have to really tell the truth. Like, you have to stop lying to yourself. You have to take the masks off.
Yeah. And there's such a difference in doing it for validation versus doing it to look at the naked truth of yourself. And it's not for anyone else to see, but it's really for yourself to acknowledge and accept.
Yeah. And I think these are layers and levels. Not that everything is linear, but it's like that spiral that just keeps going deeper and deeper. So it has to start somewhere. So if going inwards for personal validation is where the beginning was, that's okay too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we need that. And I'm so glad you said that, because we need to start wherever we are at now and just see what every step of the way is going to uncover and deliver for us in ways that it's meant for us to see and receive.
And there's a lot of people attacking the new age spirituality world, and they're saying that they're doing it for validation, or they're doing it for popularity, or they're doing it for this guise of spirituality. But it's not necessarily a bad thing to be where they are, because, whenever it's time for them to go deeper, they will. They've stepped through one door, they can step through another.
And it's always a choice. It's always a choice that we are free to make.
It's all about choice.
It is. Absolutely. What was for you, Jessie, though, like when you look back, not in the sense of making your journey wrong, because it wasn't and it isn't, but as to what wisdom have you gained from when you were doing it for validation versus when you were doing it for yourself and allowing yourself to really see you completely?
Yeah, I think the wisdom that I gained and learned how to apply was the courage of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
The courage of performance is very different from the courage of being seen fully, without any mask, without any pretenses, and without any expectations of how it will be received. Whereas the courage of performance depended on how I would be received and what people think of me. And now it matters, because we are creatures of community. It matters, but it matters less in that I'm at peace with myself, whereas before there wasn't a level of peace with myself. So I think the major difference would be the level of vulnerability and transparency that I was willing to access in comparison to now. So the wisdom is in the truthfulness.
And truthfulness is all perspective, right?
Which is why the spiral, you can be truthful here in that spiral, you can be truthful here in that spiral, and then you can be truthful here in that spiral. And that is entirely subjective to where your consciousness is in that moment.
Now, Jessie, you said something earlier where it says peace for yourself. What importance did that bring to you?
Well, it definitely helped me want to stop that behavior of chasing, constant productivity, the next best thing. What am I up to now? What's next? Looking for that external validation. It definitely helped me. There's an ebb and flow of motivation where I want to do more, but there's no more guilt and shame when I want to sit back and not do anything.
It's more balance is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, there's definitely harmony within myself, which is where the peace is. I allow myself to get caught up with the motivation and the rigmarole. And then I also let myself get very caught up in the relaxation and nothingness of it all.
Right. And I can imagine with all the people that you get to work with, that becomes so imperative to show them that that's possible too. Now they will come to their own realization at their own timing, but to have someone in front of them that embodies it, that showcases it, and also allows them to see a path towards it. How do you, without telling people what to do, guide them through?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. You show them, you don't guide them. You walk beside them. You don't hold their hand. Yeah. I remember, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago, I was speaking to one of my shaman mentors. His name is Daniel, and he is now currently in Salt Spring Island in BC. I believe he may have retired and just become an elder. And, I was just so exhausted of doing the work and holding space for others because of the amount of pain and the amount of sufferation of others, that my goal was trying to help them. My goal was trying to teach them. My goal was trying to not necessarily fix them, but actually in saying that, yes, my goal was to fix them. Yeah, there's no shame in saying that. And I said, I can't do this. And he said, what is it that you're doing? And he's like, and I said, it feels like it's too heavy of a burden to carry. And he said, then don't carry it. And I said, but what do you mean? They all come to me. And he said, they come to you because you are you. So instead of trying to help them, just be you. Just be you. And in that, they will they will feel. So my goal isn't to try and convince anybody of anything. My goal is to be that frequency and that resonance that I am.
Yes.
And to invite people into a space that makes them feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
So that they can see that it is achievable,
right,
through the power of choice.
And there's a whole different frequency that you come with then versus I am meant to help you. I am meant to fix you. Because I completely resonate with that idea that when someone comes to you, that we are meant to help them and they came to us for a reason. And we need to do whatever we can to help them out of whatever situation they're in. And it's a very humbling realization to understand that no, we're just guidance. We're just guides on their path for whatever short, long period of time it's meant to be. But that's all we are.
Sometimes I like to think of it as not even as a guide, but more so an observer.
Would you say an observer who shows them the mirror and kindly guides them along?
Yeah, easily as a witness. If I witness you, I hear your story, I feel your pain, I see your pain, I honor your pain, I give you permission to have that pain wherever you are, and I say, let's swim in that pain together. I witness you.
Why is it important to swim in the pain? Many people would like to walk away from the pain and ignore the pain and suppress the pain. Why do we need to be in the pain?
Well, for multiple reasons. I think, one, there is the polarity and duality of the existence of being in this human body. It's necessary to experience all the emotions without being afraid of them. Otherwise, we give them stories, and then there's guilt and shame, and then that becomes dis-ease in our body. So that's more of the biological, anatomical state of altering our essence.
Yes.
And then there's the more metaphysical place of being able to tap into the pain for the very personal and unique language that pain is speaking to you. Your emotions are energy in motion. We've heard that before.
Yeah.
So if pain is energy in motion, it is meant to move through you, to guide you to move through something, towards something, away from something. So there is medicine in what you are moving towards and away from. That means that through active choice, you get to listen to the language of the pain to actively create a life that you want, as opposed to staying in that pain, passively experiencing life.
Yeah. Jessie, what would you say to someone who all their life, all they've done is suppress their emotions, suppress what they are actually feeling inside of them?
What would I say to them? I don't think there's anything that I have to say to them. I think their body would say enough to them. If they listen to their body, over time, they will begin to feel the aches and the pains, the stagnation, the inflammation, the dis-ease, the anxiety, the depression, the random slip and falls, the accidents, the constant arguments with others. Just their body in itself will tell them everything.
Yeah, our body speaks loudly and clearly.
Incredibly. The body keeps a score. The body always knows. The body remembers. How many books have been written about how intelligent the physical system is?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
By accident. So there's nothing I can say about repressed emotion other than, let's take a look at your body. Let's listen to your body.
Yeah, I love that message, because your body will definitely show you when you have those aches and the pains and the feelings and the depression and the anxieties. They're like, okay, something is inside of me telling me it's not okay. What is that message for me?
Yeah. And it may not be telling you that it's not okay, because then once again, we're making something right or wrong. It may just be telling you that it's time to change.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It is definitely not about right or wrong, which we all hear about day in, day out, whatever we do. And it's really about, oh, okay, I experienced that situation in this way. What made me see it from that perspective specifically. And it's okay to move and change perspectives over time.
It's actually not just okay, it's expected, because that's what nature does. Nature expects, nature demands change. And if change doesn't happen, it becomes too rigid and it will eventually eradicate. It doesn't have the capacity to survive the decades. It will die not only in itself, but its lineage.
Right.
It's a type of evolution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Change is demanded.
So going back to your story then, Jessie, when was change demanded for you? Before we continue, I would like to offer you something special. If you desire to deeper, more meaningful connections in your life and are looking to improve your relationships with yourself and others, it is time to make a change. I'm inviting you to join our Deepening Connections through Meditation group. Imagine improving your relationships through meditations that foster understanding and growth. Check out matinasingh.com/meditation for more details and use the code GROWTH for an exclusive discount. Now let's get back to our soulful conversation, helping you on your journey of self-awareness and connection.
Change was demanded many, many times, and I was too stubborn to listen. So I think eventually I had my final aha moment where I was forced to reconcile my inner self at around age in between 30 and 33. Yeah, where I really had to look inside me and say, oh my God, I've been doing this all along. I did that. I created that. I participated in that, not 50%, but 100%. You know that term, like relationships are 50-50?
Yeah.
No,
Bullshit.
It's 100% you and 100% them.
Yes.
And my relationship with my life, I wasn't looking at it like that. My relationship with my parents, I wasn't looking at it like that. With lovers, with partners, with siblings, I would do the 50-50 and I would place more of the blame on them, and I wasn't looking at myself. Yeah. And I would say at 30, in between 30 and 33, I have a very hard time remembering exactly chronologically just because of all of the repressed memories and the repressed timelines from the experiences, the challenging experiences. So sometimes placing an exact pinpoint on the dates is very hard for me. But I think it was between 30 and 33 where I was sitting on a beach in Jamaica listening to 5 CDs in a Walkman. I'm just dating myself. And I'm listening to these CDs and I had so many mind-blowing epiphanies. And in that moment, sitting on the beach, I promised myself to change. I promised myself to not do the things that I had been doing for all those years. And it took time. It took time to change. Yeah. I would still at times undulate back towards old patterns. And then I would catch myself and I would try again, catch myself, try again, catch myself, try again. Similar to meditation, when you go in and out of that state. Similarly, the actioning of change also required going back and forth in old patterns until I was ready to step into a full commitment to myself.
What you just said is not only very important for everyone to really truly understand and really hold grace for themselves in, but really also to go back and question themselves, like, where did I go back? Because what I have seen from my personal experience, from my life, is like, yeah, there are many, many times where I went back and did the same, like, not again. Why am I doing this? I've done so many years of healing and work on myself. I shouldn't be able to do this. Why did I go back into it? But we forget that when we have lived 20, 30, 40 plus years in that way, and your body remembers that that is the comfort way, and your mind prefers the comfort way versus the unknown and the change that you're actually welcoming now, it is about going back and forth. It is about catching yourself, becoming more aware. It is about having that grace and ability to be so humble. It's like, I did it again, and now we try again, versus I'm never going to try again.
Yeah, there are always very many nuances and layers to everything. So on a physical level, let's look at it from nature's perspective. The undulating back and forth, the pendulum going back and forth from the old you to the new you is like seasonal transitions. You know, when it's spring or when it's fall, it doesn't automatically go from winter to summer. We need time to undulate, to understand the direction that we're going in and what nature requires of us.
Right.
And then if you look at it from the metaphysical perspective, of course, you've got that spiral once again, deeper and deeper and deeper, coming back to yourself. So it always comes back to mathematics. It always comes back to sacred geometry. It always comes back to frequency and vibration. So the frequency is that it's like a golden medium where you are just spiraling at all times. So we're still coming back to the same lesson, but in a deeper way. And the depth of it is the depth of you.
Yes.
Yeah. But the depth of you then becomes a constant change in frequency and a remembering, or not just remembering, but remembering between you and God.
And whatever you perceive as God for anyone listening. Yeah.
Yeah. Universe, source, love, light, whatever you want to call it. I call it God. God and Goddess for me are universe and source.
Yeah.
And some people want to look at it as, God is aliens or extraterrestrial beings that are conducting this experiment where our DNA was tampered with 4 million years ago. And whatever you want to consider a higher being or a higher power that is directing our consciousness and observing our consciousness and what we are capable of, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. And there's so many different tools and ways of coming towards yourself and really stepping into that knowing of your own being. And you have so many beautiful, unique ways that you help people. So talk a little bit more about that.
Well, the fundamental way that I help people is to always come back to nature. It's the only one planet we live on, and it carries us from life till death and beyond. And it never lets us down, and it is very consistent.
Right.
So it is our mother. It is a variation of, or an iteration of God. So if we could come back to nature and recognize this earth as a reflection of us, and if we can see her in us and us in her, then there is capacity for peace and understanding. So that's one of the tools that I will always come back to, is analogies in Mother Nature.
I love that. There's such a beautiful wisdom and calmness in your voice, but also in the way that you speak and share, that it really allows you to not only hear the words, but deepen the words into like, okay, what would that mean for me? What would that look like for me? And I love that you're sharing in such a very knowing way that, of course, nature always supports us. Like, oh yeah, it does. It's just bringing light to things that we don't question.
We take it for granted. Instead, we look to institutions and governments for support.
Very true. Very true.
We've left ourselves.
But the leaving of ourselves, and I'm curious to hear what you perceive it as. But for me, when I look back at my story, it was the thought that I had at that time was that I was never taught to look inside. I was always taught to be a certain way and show up a certain way or do something a certain way. Or this is what men do. This is what women do. This is what's allowed. This is what's not allowed, without questioning where I stand in that. And that was my personal pivotal point where it's like, okay, hello, wake up. Where do you stand? What do you want? But 35 years had gone by before I asked that specific question.
Yeah. We need to look at it from a much broader perspective. This is about the evolution of humanity. This isn't about Matina.
True.
So what we're taught and what weren't taught, actually, that's not what this is about. What this is about is a group of people being taken from nature, which is our forefathers and foremothers. And then they give birth to children who are brought into the new world, which is fundamentally institution and money and materialism and capitalism. And then they go into survival, and then they give birth to these children who are then inherently born into survival. And then their children are born into survival until evolutionary nature says, okay, it's time to come back to your natural ways. So Matina was just somewhere along the way within that evolution of humanity. And now your children are going to have an easier time connecting, and so on and so on and so forth, until another generation is removed. Mm. So it's not about what you were taught. It's about following the natural flow of evolution of humanity. And we're not the first civilization to go through this, and we won't be the last.
You've taken me from this perspective to boom, that perspective, which
because we want to villainize the world, and we want to blame somebody or something for not having the awareness, for not being. My parents didn't teach me financial literacy, but I still have to do my taxes. So am I going to blame my parents forever?
True.
The resources are there. The resources are there. What is actively utilized or not utilized is choice, which is the only thing that separates us from a lot of other animals. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Free will, choice. And there are so many animals out there that are so much more intelligent than humans.
Yeah.
And humans actually believe they're smarter. But again, you've got to utilize your choice to be able to understand that you are nature. Is your divine right to come back to her.
Right. Yes. Oh my gosh. Beautiful conversation. Loving it. I hope that the listeners are getting their own aha moments and really stepping into questioning. Am I blaming, or am I seeing myself and seeing the choices that I have and that I get to live into and be into what is next for me? Because you're very right in saying I had to take ownership of my own life and choose and decide where I was going to go next and the doors that I was going to open up for my children as perceived as normal. Very true.
And awesome. As much as that matters for the evolution of Matina, that matters for the evolution of our ancestors and our future children more.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're just little puppets along the way. The soul is the brighter being, entity that shines through without the concept of time. It was lovely having this beautiful conversation with you, Jessie. I do have a question that the previous guest has left, and I want to end it on that note, but really allowing you to step into this question, which is, what sparks your joy?
Love. That's it. Love. Pure, unencumbered, unhindered, open-hearted, transparent, vulnerable love.
Are you experiencing that with yourself right now?
I am. Yeah. It's taken many years to get here. And there's times where I want to close off, or I want to armor up, and I let myself for a day or two, and then I slowly just peel it away again. And I look outside and I listen to the bird songs. Sometimes I'll go outside and I'll hear a raven or a crow, and I can hear them talking to me, and it's like, oh, fine, I'll listen. Or I'll see a butterfly fly by, or I'll listen to the children playing in a playground and their laughter melts me. Or my mother constantly asking me what I want to eat, even though it annoys me. Or my brother going out of his way to help me when he doesn't have to. Or a friend saying, what can I do for you? How can I help you? How can I be there for you? When she doesn't have to. She has a full life of her own. The magic, the beauty, the connection, the depth, the love that I receive on a daily basis from just my existence and my ability to perceive it through this physical meat suit is the privilege of love.
Love that.
Yeah.
And that's the privilege that we all get to experience when we choose to.
If you choose to see it that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was absolutely a pleasure speaking with you. For the listeners, the description, you will find all the links that are needed to connect with Jessie and to see what she does in this world. Thank you again. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode has helped you to feel less alone in finding tools towards a life which is overflowing with love and purpose. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to reach more individuals who are seeking healing and personal growth just like you. And don't forget to take a screenshot and share your aha moments on your Instagram stories and tag me, Matina. See you next week. Take care.